All right, welcome everybody. This is episode 3. Yeah, episode 3 of the podcast. Again, YouTube has not blocked us yet, so we're still going strong. But today we have on
John Wichert.
John Wichert. In class, we call him John Wick.
John Wick.
So.
I've been called worse. So.
That's awesome. So John was in the Coast Guard, and I had to have him on because I realized that Coast Guard doesn't get talked about much. And
no, well, in the news they have. They recently not getting paid, and with this the white nationalist guy, and that's wild. We've been talked about a lot, and ways we don't want to.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like we started this class, and I knew I was gonna get made fun of a lot because the Coast Guard, you know, not real military, and I was thinking, man, I hope I can just kind of like fly under the radar, nothing stupid happens. And of course, you know, we get thrown into the news without getting paid.
Yeah.
This guy who shows up and he Coast Guard officer and he's stockpiling weapons. And I'm thinking to myself, of course, this would happen when I'm here with a bunch of military guys.
So explain a little bit more about that for everybody who's, you know, not up to date on it. Because, you know, it's some people are paying attention to news, some people aren't. So just go into that.
Yeah, one of from my knowledge, is a Coast Guard officer, lieutenant, made his way up. He was in the Marine Corps at one point, and he, I guess, he was stockpiling weapons and had a hit list of Democratic senators and judges, and he just wanted to take out some Democrats. I guess was the case.
I feel like he's not the only person who probably was.
No, there's actually there was a guy. I think it was a little less than a year ago. I can't remember his name, but some crazy guy down in Florida. Actually, they caught him in my hometown in Plantation, Florida.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. He was kind of doing the same thing. He was just stockpiling weapons, lived in a van, and had a hit. Oh, he was mailing. That's what he was doing. He was mailing substances to, you know, Democratic journalists and senators. Yeah, it's just
That's wild.
it's getting nuts. Yeah.
So, like, how does the government usually like approach that kind of situation? As far as like, I mean, with the Coast Guard, because I know. So there's a situation in the Air Force where I was in Minot, and in Minot, I don't know if a lot of people know this story, but there were some grenades and an M240 that got lost, and they were searching for it for a while. And I found out some guy that was security for, I believe it was a guy that was security forces who would only have access to it, but he ended up stealing it. Okay. And they didn't really know of his intentions with it. Some people thought that because the state fair was coming up and it was in Minot, and some people thought he was trying to kill a bunch of people at the state fair. It was a lot of conspiracies, but yeah, people got fired.
I would imagine. Yeah, I don't think this guy, the Coast Guard guy, Hassan, I think was his last name. He, I don't think he was stealing Coast Guard stuff because he was stationed at headquarters and he was more of a personnel. I call them, you know, paper pushers. They didn't really do. I mean, it's important what they do. I think he was a part of acquiring the new class of ships. He was part of that team that was acquiring all those new classes of ships. But he wasn't. I doubt he had many access to Coast Guard stuff. I think that was all personally bought weapons and ammunition. And the other thing I found funny too is they said, he had 1,000 rounds of ammunition, but you look at the picture of what, and you know, you only know what you see.
Yeah.
There was like, you know, 15 different guns, and I'm thinking 15 different guns, 1,000 rounds of ammunition. That's not a lot. That's not a lot of ammunition.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna need more. So.
Yeah. They thought it was like sniper rifles or something.
I guess one shot, one kill.
Yeah,
you're not spraying anything.
So tell everybody a little bit about your I guess your Coast Guard experience and what you really did and how it really affected your life till up to now.
Okay, so I joined in 2014. We go to Cape May, New Jersey. It's the southern tip of New Jersey for boot camp. Actually, I had a blast. I had so much fun at boot camp. It was a blast. Everything is just a game. It's hilarious.
yeah.
Hilarious. And then I went to Station New York on Staten Island, and we did a lot of like patrols. We did 8 hours per day, 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon. We escorted the Staten Island ferry to and from Manhattan and Staten Island.
How was that?
It was cool. It was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, doing patrols. It was just cool. I got to see and do so many different things.
Yeah.
Because we were in New York City and we're part of the military, we get hooked up with all sorts of cool stuff. And I actually got to hold the Coast Guard flag on the ice at Madison Square Garden. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Before a Rangers game. It was awesome. That was one of the coolest things I think I've gotten to done. Coast Guard related. So we actually did presidential security ops too. So I got to be a part of the meeting. Like I was such a small cog in a huge wheel, but we sat by the bridges and make sure there were no boats basically just watching out. And then I went to Electricians Mayday School in Virginia. Came rated. Because I know in a lot of the other services, you go like straight from boot camp to A school. Yeah. We don't do that. Some people can wait up to 2 and 3 years to go to A school in the Coast Guard.
Jeez, that's a long time.
Yeah. I don't know why they do it that way. Maybe because of space. They only have a certain amount of space to fill those billets. But yeah, so I waited just under 10 months to get to EMA school. Went there, and then I got stationed on a 225-foot buoy tender in Port Huron, Michigan, and we broke ice, worked buoys, lots of buoys. I don't know this for a fact, but I feel like in the Coast Guard we probably worked the most buoys out of any boat.
I would assume so.
Yeah, we had a lot. So I was across all 5 Great Lakes working buoys and breaking ice. So.
Now, is that something that civilians could be able to do, or is that something the military just like took over?
So, pre-2001, September 11th, I don't know if you remember, the Coast Guard moved from the Department of Transportation to the Department of Homeland Security.
Gotcha.
Which is where they are now. Working buoys was a leftover mission from when we were part of the DOT.
Okay.
So that's why we still, because it has to do with commerce.
Got you.
And transportation of goods and on the lakes, on the ocean. So that's why the Coast Guard still takes care of it. I used to joke with people and I said, "What do I do?" I said, I work for the DOT, because it's pretty much what we were doing.
Yeah. So. Have you ever experienced something that you just felt like that was something that you were looking for, like when you were like, I want to join the Coast Guard, and then this thing happened that I was always like ready, I was waiting for this to happen? No,
not really, because growing up in South Florida, I saw the Coast Guard all the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I thought I was going to be doing.
South Florida stuff.
Yeah, like warm, chasing drug runners.
Yeah.
The majority of my time, 3 years and 2 months out of 4 years and 2 months, I spent it in Michigan on a buoy tender working buoys. And
not much cocaine is coming through.
No.
Like here.
It's funny too, because I didn't even know, and that's my own ignorance. I didn't even know the Coast Guard was on the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
And then I got sent there. And oh yeah, we're here.
Yeah, we're here. That's awesome. But, so it was just like, I guess, just an influence of being in that. You said Plantation, Florida.
Yeah,
is where you were. Now, is that east side or west side of Florida?
It's the east coast of Florida. It's about, depending on traffic, anywhere between 15 and 45 minutes to Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
So cool. And then you're an hour away from Miami.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you just had that influence of just seeing that kind of environment. That's what made you really want to get into the Coast Guard?
Yeah, and it was more, I was always attracted to it. I liked the fact that they were a smaller service. I felt like they did a lot with a little, and I kind of like that attitude. Yeah. And I like the roles and the missions that they fulfill for this country. So
okay.
Little did I know there was 8 navigation buoy work to be done, but you said, was I looking for it? No, but I'm glad I found it.
Okay.
I had so much fun. I still have days where, man, I wish I was out there, slinging buoys, and it was so much fun. I always tell people I'll never get paid to act the way that I did out on deck, because you're slinging mud and talking shit. It's so much fun. So much fun. It sucks too because it's cold, but you got to make the best of it.
Yeah, which I had that same kind of like experience when I was in Minot. Like we were, I think I was telling you this one time. We would just be out there, and one time like our job was literally to just shovel snow.
Yeah,
because there was so much snow in front of the jets that nothing was going to happen until we just shoveled the snow. So like for multiple shifts, people would just be shoveling snow, and then also, there'd just be times where we'd just be acting up and just having fun while we're working. And the military offers you those kind of opportunities, but it's interesting to think about it that way. Like, man, it sucked.
It was, I used to say, it sucks so much it's fun.
Yeah.
You're there with anywhere between 5 and 15 other people out on deck, and you're all in it.
Yeah.
It just sucks, but it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a new appreciation and a love for it that I never even knew this existed. So I was very thankful. I was not the happiest when I was there, but I was thankful I got to do it. Now, ice breaking, on the other hand, that's boring. So boring.
So how did you go about the ice breaking? Like when you were breaking up the ice on the buoys, like was it I guess it was team oriented, I'm going to assume.
For sure.
And then did they have certain groups, or did y'all, because when I was in the Air Force, when we had like our teams, like they would send a team to load barn, and we would be a 4-man load crew, and basically they'd say, you guys are supposed to be together. It didn't always happen, but they would try to put us together so that we would always have like some sort of rhythm, we would be able to have some sort of camaraderie with each other. But was it like that with? So
there was our bosun and our chief of the boat, the deck chief, kind of tried to foster, at least in my last 2 years there, tried to foster everybody get out there and help out kind of mentality.
Okay.
If you wanted to. So there would be times where there would be a bunch of people out there, and there was no necessarily assigned teams for the most part, except on days when we were doing a lot of buoys. He would break us up into A and B teams.
Got you.
And we wouldn't stand a watch. We wouldn't do anything else except be out on deck working buoys. But you definitely do have that sense of camaraderie and teamwork, and it was, I mean, in reality, each buoy weighs, depending upon the size of the buoy, it'll crush you easily.
Yeah.
The things that we were working with on deck, the chain was ridiculously, I mean, one link of chain was about that big. It's huge. It's heavy.
Wild.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, but it was, you sit back and you think about it and you go, damn, like we're slinging some heavy stuff out here. If one thing goes wrong or somebody makes a mistake, something fails, I forget where we were, but we were working a buoy, and part of what we have to do is replace the chain because the buoy bouncing up in the water chafes the chain.
Okay.
So we got to replace the chain. We pulled up a chain that was so badly chafed, like it was real thin. And we were getting it into one of our deck machines that brings the chain in, and it parted. It snapped.
Oh, snap. What happened?
It was coming in, and I could kind of see, I was standing on the opposite side of it, and it was one of those things where like you see it happening and you can't say it fast, like duck or get the fuck out of the way. It was one of those moments where, and everybody kind of out on deck, it parted, and there were people that if they were standing in the wrong spot, luckily they weren't, they would have lost their leg easily, both legs. Yeah. I mean, possibly worse, but at the very least, losing limbs. And it was just kind of this wild moment about chain flew in and back into the water because it parted. Everybody kind of looked around, feeling legs and going like, all right, we're good. And the bosun out on deck, he's like, I need a fucking smoke break after this. So we all took a pause for the cause for about 10 minutes, and then we had a kind of a safety stand down and talked about what happened. And there was literally nothing we could have done.
That's
but
crazy.
It just it parted. There was another time where we pulled it up and the chain kind of nested around itself. It was just wrapped up in a big ball, and the only way to get that on deck was I had to run underneath it and stick one of our hooks into it so we could bring it on deck. And my buddy, who was the buoy deck supervisor, looked at me. He's like, "You want to do it?" Yeah. I guess my dad could use a new center console boat. Why not? So I was like, I told the guy who's spotting me, who had my back, because we always have backups when we lean over the lean over the deck, over the water, especially with something that heavy above you. I told him, I was like, "Man, all I want you to, don't worry about me. I'll make sure I don't slip. I'll make sure I don't do anything. Just look up, and if that thing fucking moves, yank my ass back. I don't care what I'm doing, just yank me back."
Dude.
And I threw the hook on. I got it first shot, yanked it, and then I got the hell out of there. But you sit there and you think, like at the time, it was, it was all kind of fun and games, and I was making jokes about my dad getting a new center console, and you sit back and you go, God damn, like if that would have fell, I would have been done.
Exactly, man. Dude, that's wild. And it's crazy, like, as I said, like, people will talk about the Coast Guard and say they don't do much, and then you hear stories like that, and then even civilians don't understand, like, what's actually going on.
Yeah.
I remember I was with my friend, and we went to go see his friends in South Dakota, and they were completely oblivious to, like, what we actually do. So they were like, "So do you get to go off base?" And I was like, Yeah.
We live lives.
Yeah,
it's a job.
Yeah, it's a regular job, man. You go in, you got to do what you got to do, then you go home. Yeah. But you were telling me about the hours that you had to work, and then like how you had to do all the stuff that you were doing on the ship, and then you did like your electrical stuff on top of that.
Yeah, so obviously I was an electrician's mate, so that was technically my main responsibility was working with and everything that had a wire run into it, everything from, galley equipment to shit tank sensors to the generators on board. We had to mess with. I was part of the shop that messed with all that stuff, and then we had engine room watches on top of that, and I also got small boat qualified. So when we launched the small boat off the side, I could go out and be the engineer on that.
That's cool.
Just because I don't like sitting still.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I got bored, especially with ice breaking. Like we were out my last year. I think we were out over 200 days between ice breaking and buoy working.
That's so wild.
Yeah, and people make fun of like you said. People make fun of the Coast Guard. I'm like, man, I was out same as a Navy boat.
Yeah,
for a lot of the time. Like,
yeah.
So I kind of got off track. I forgot what I was saying.
Well, I wanted to get into something that I was just on Facebook, and one of my friends, Lindsay, had brought up something, and it was about the women getting into the draft. Now, she had saw a post, and she had shared the post on Facebook, and I think it was like recent, like I don't know if it was yesterday, today, or like, but it was super recent. And I remember I had posted, I think it was like 2016 or 2015 that they were talking about women joining the draft, and I thought that it was going to be like a for sure thing. I think it was like 2019 that they said that it was for sure going to happen, and never heard anything about it. Like, have you heard anything about it?
No, I haven't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought, though. I mean, like, when it comes to equality, does everybody want to be eligible for the draft? I mean, how do we decide that? I think that was kind of I don't even know when the draft started. I know.
Was it like World War One or
I can't remember whether it was 1 or 2, but that's back then. It was the standard of the men go out and work and the women stay at home, and I'm sure that's how men only being eligible for the draft started.
Yeah, I would assume so.
It's different. It's different now. I don't know. That's an interesting thought.
Because see, I thought it was just so crazy because I felt like after seeing some of the posts, some of the women were like, "Yeah, equality," and then some of them were like, "I don't want to do that." And so,
and that's what's funny is and me personally, I don't think, unless barring World War III, I don't think the draft will ever be used again.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think even if there was World War III, I don't see it ever being used. Can you imagine some of these snowflakes nowadays being told they have to go fight a war? Like, I'd like to believe that we have people in this country that would do that, but
which is even a more interesting topic because they talk about the difference between like the Civil War and World War I, World War II, all the old wars. They talk about the main difference is less people have died. It's when somebody dies in the Middle East nowadays, it's news.
Yeah.
That wasn't news back in those wars. That was expected.
Yeah. And
Tons of people were dying.
That also has to do very much with the 24-hour news cycle. Like they need to fill their airwaves with
That's true.
stuff too. There's
That's
more.
true.
It's not. They need to talk about more stuff, and I think that's part of our problem in this country sometimes is we have too much time to talk about stuff. Everybody has a platform to talk about whatever nonsense they want to talk about.
Exactly.
So instead of 30 minutes in the afternoon or in the evening, you watch the news, and then that's how you get it. It's on 24 hours a day. It's
and you got
anywhere.
CNN, just like every time like CNN is on, it seems like they've got like that red bar at the bottom of the screen.
It's sensory overload when you watch any news, any of those 24-hour news networks where they have the scrolling thing going this way, the scrolling thing going that way, the four people talking.
Yeah,
it's crazy that it goes back to it's a business. They gotta make money. They gotta fill their airwaves. They gotta sell their spots, their commercials.
Absolutely. And so a huge topic lately, has been the wall and trying to fund that and everything. And I'm really confused on. I mean, I get it. Some people are going to be one way and some people are going to be another way. But how is there not some sort of, okay, we need this to happen, and if these other things don't fall into line, then it shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? Like if we want the wall, we need A, B, and C to happen. And I guess as far as like Trump is always talking about how immigrants are like taking jobs and they're like got drugs and
crime and
everything. So how is there not like I guess like set facts? I'm like, look, we need this because blank, and it's not black and white.
No, and they try and make it binary. They try and make it zeros or ones, but it's not. There's so many different aspects, and that's the thing with facts is you can say a lot of different things and have it be facts. Like, are there immigrants committing crime? Probably.
Yeah.
There's a lot of immigrants that aren't committing crime, and I don't know. I joke around and I say, well, if you're going to build a wall on the southern border, why not build one on the northern border too? Obviously it's not feasible. It's a much bigger border.
Oh,
yeah. But my point is,
Americans seem to like Canadians more than
the Mexicans. Exactly. They're nice people, eh? So I dealt with them a lot. But no, it's crazy. You'd think there would be kind of a, A, B, and C need to happen, but it's crazy. Our state of politics nowadays is so adversarial and so polarized, and it's scary. Like, I yearn for the days where there was compromise, and it's not my way, fuck you. It's okay. I understand you can believe something different, but I don't necessarily agree with you. To me, there's no more civility. It's just more militant, which sucks. It's terrible. Nothing's getting done, and we keep slipping further and further away from each other. And
absolutely,
I sound like a hippie. We all just need to love each other. But at the end of the day, it's like
it's true.
It's our country, and if you believe immigrants are committing crimes disproportionately, I don't know if I agree with you, but you should have that belief. But you should also understand that your belief isn't the only belief. And I don't know. And then it comes to funding too. Like, do we want to spend money on that on the wall? It's a fair amount of money, and I don't know. It's interesting watching everything that's going on.
Absolutely. I saw some graphic where people were trying to compare how much like the average person makes or like the average household makes, and compare that to the purchase of the wall. So they took like America's budget, like our yearly budget, and then they compared that to how much we're going to spend on the wall, and then they tried to make that a comparison for like how much the average person makes, and then like them making a purchase that's comparative to the wall.
What was okay? Yeah, like proportionality to like the
see
U.S.
how
government's
small
pocket,
this
and and that's another aspect of it too. Is at the end of the day, is $5 billion with a B going to make that big of a difference?
Yeah, with our $22 trillion debt.
Yeah, exactly. It just rolled over to 22 a couple months ago. Is it really going to make a difference? And I like to believe that every dollar counts, but when you're dealing with trillions, every dollar doesn't really count. So, but I
or maybe nobody's counting.
Or maybe nobody. Yeah, exactly. We're only counting the debt.
Yeah,
and maybe that's made up. Talk about facts.
Yeah. Somebody was I think I was talking to Nelson, and he was like, "Is there a record for debt?" Like he was like, what person is in the most amount of debt? And I was like, that's a crazy thought to think about. Like you by yourself have way more debt than like anybody else. But we were thinking like most people claim bankruptcy when they get that much debt.
That's true.
Companies, they claim bankruptcy once they get such.
It's quite an honor that I don't think anyone really wants.
Right. That's a crazy thought as far as like America in itself, because we get in so much debt. The country itself is $22 trillion in debt, and I'm like, how do you dig yourself out of that hole?
And I'm not by any means a finance guy. I have a degree in political science. I stayed far away from the math classes. But I feel like there's something. It's not us being $1 million in debt or $100,000 in debt. I don't know how those numbers work, and that's like a lot of things with. The government is like that shit's above my pay grade, man.
Yeah.
I don't I'll have an opinion on stuff, but at the end of the day, we don't really know exactly how it works. Or at least I don't.
Yeah.
And I would love to learn how everything works, but
absolutely
you can.
And I don't know. I think that if we literally just took the time to figure it out, I think we could chip away at it. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's just going to go away in 5-10 years. I think it's going to take decades to probably get to narrow it down to $100,000.
And that's
always going to be there.
Do you have a budget deficit or do you have a budget surplus? And that's what presidents, that's what our government tries to do. Is they try. Well, usually I feel like they should try to create a budget surplus, so you can start chipping away at that debt. But. That's crazy. The women in the draft. I'm going back to that.
It's an interesting
That's a wild
topic.
thought.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, we could even take that to gays in the military. I don't know what you're.
See, when Trump got rid of, not got rid of,
transgender.
The transgender
ban.
thing.
Yeah.
So if you want women in the military, then you have to think of, the people who say there's like 36,000 different genders. And
is that the number now?
I don't know. I'm just making it up, and I think they are too. But once you get to that point, you got to think about, what gender is, what's in, what's out.
Yeah, and my opinion on it is, if that person's gonna have my back, I don't care what. I really don't care.
Yeah, just do your job.
If you're gonna do your job, I don't care what you do at home.
Yeah.
But I understand, like, even on a boat, that would create interesting things, how do you handle that? And that's once again where I go, that shit's above my pay grade, I don't want to be telling people they can or can't do stuff. So but women in the draft. That's an interesting thought, because I'm sure you have the women out there that be like, hell yeah. And then you have the women like, ooh, I don't want to do that.
Well, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for doing this.
Sure, this was fun.
I know you said you weren't much of a talker, but hey, we got it done though.
We did.
Yeah, and it blows by fast. So
it does.
Yeah. But everybody stay tuned for the next time. I'm not sure who I'm going to have on, but it's going to be an interesting topic. Might have John back on. We'll talk about
I'd love to come back.
Women in the draft or something. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.